Hello YouTube! Scott here, and I am back with an instant review of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. This time I'm taking a look at episode 6 entitled Just Jen. So basically they followed what must have been the longest episode title with the shortest episode title. Cool. I have to admit I was not particularly enthused with this episode. Most of it takes place at a wedding, and there are just things about it that I will get to in a minute. But part of it stems from last week's episode. See, this is episode 6 out of 9. And right at the end, there was another hint at the villain, in the shadows, who's apparently trying to get their hands on Jennifer's powers. And I got to thinking about the last episode, the courtroom battle with Titania. It occurred to me that, structurally speaking, it might have been better for this whole series if Jen/She-Hulk had stopped whoever was coming after her, and then turned around at the end and won the personal court case against Titania. Make it very clear that, yes, she's She-Hulk, but she's also Jennifer Walters, an attorney first and a superhero second. I feel like that would have flowed a little better for me personally. But I mean, as far as this episode goes, yeah, some of it I didn't like. The B plot was interesting and gave Nikki and Mallory, some time to bond and grow a little bit as characters. How about a synopsis, okay? So Jen gets a wedding invitation. A friend of hers from high school is inviting her to be a bridesmaid. And she's going through that even though the wedding is on a Thursday, and who gets married on a Thursday, as she says. And she does this one fourth wall break to say, yes, this is a self-contained wedding episode. And, she shows up as She-Hulk, and everybody's excited to see her, and then the bride, her friend Julie, which I put in quotes because you'll see in a minute, convinces her to basically de-Hulk and just spend the whole time as Jen. And then she has her running around, doing things for her, bragging to her bridesmaids that she can talk Jen into doing anything, pairing her up with a dog that is apparently on the verge of death to walk down the aisle with. This is clearly not a healthy friend dynamic. Clearly, I think Jen must have been Julie's doormat in high school. And she just kind of settles back into that role, which I hate because, being She-Hulk seems to have been giving her a lot more confidence, And then it gets even worse when it turns out Titania is invited to the wedding. And she claims it's not to mess with Jen, but it totally is. Because there's a later scene where Jen is straight up hammered and goes out and gets sick. And Titania is right there and punches her. Apparently we knew she was a super powered influencer, and apparently she's got super strength. And she just wants Jen to She-Hulk out and fight her. Jen can't do it at first because she's drunk. Because there's a cash bar. But when she finally does, and they go and fight on the dance floor, and Jen's cousin Ched, who is the DJ, is, kind of emceeing the whole thing. And the thing is, Jen doesn't have to win in a fight because Titania slips in some ice cubes and totally messes up her teeth. Now, at that point, Jen had promised Julie that she wouldn't She-Hulk out, but Julie was also hammered and thought it was awesome. And the last part of that, it's just Jen and this guy she met at the wedding, Jonathan, eating french fries together. Now, the B-plot is a little bit more interesting because I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Marvel character Mr. Immortal, but he's got kind of an interesting story. It's this guy named Craig Hollis who cannot die because when he was born, his mother asked a being called Death Urge to watch over him. So it didn't matter how reckless he was from then on, he was functionally immortal. Turns out he needs GK&H to take a case for him. Specifically, a divorce case coming from 8 of his former spouses. Because Craig has this unpleasant tendency to, instead of just telling these people he doesn't want to be married to them anymore, killing himself. Since he's legally dead, he can start his life over with a new identity, And honestly, dude should have gone straight to jail. He's got 7 wives and 1 husband arguing over who should get his money, among other things. One of them has a son. Um, Mallory kind of seems over her head on this one, but it turns out Nikki, who is only a paralegal, mind you, negotiates amicable terms for everybody. Craig has to be stopped from jumping out a window again, which he actually does once in this episode. But that gets worked out, and Nikki and Mallory are bonding afterwards. We find out Mallory is married and has at least 1 kid. But then they come across a website called Intelligentsia, and this entire thing is loaded with anti-She-Hulk memes and posts and death threats. Now, Mallory's insisting that these are just trolls and they need to be ignored and they'll go away. Nikki isn't so sure, and she tells Jen about it, calls her. Jen has no idea because she's busy eating fries with Jonathan at this point. But then we see the Intelligentsia website, and it pulls back into this laboratory where it looks like they're preparing a specialized syringe that they'll be able to use on She-Hulk to somehow penetrate her, super toughened skin. So we have just the slightest hint at whoever it is that apparently wants her powers. And I think we need to get past the slight hints with 3 episodes left. We've been hinted at this villain, we got hinted at Daredevil, which I finally realized it actually was, and I feel like I should have my nerd card taken away for that because I didn't before, but what are you gonna do? So the whole thing with Julie being a bridezilla and the main plot of the story, watching Jen being treated as a doormat by her supposed friend and all the other bridesmaids who are completely in on it, that took me out of it. I really hit me a lot more than one would think. But anyway, so I wanted to know what you guys think about it. So you know what to do: comment, like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you next week. So until then, I have been Scott, and this has been an instant review, an offshoot of opinions no one cares about. Everyone has opinions. This one was mine.